Welcome to The Rant.
Welcome to The Rant, episode 148 of The Rant, a Chicago Cubs podcast sponsored by Cubs Insider. I'm Jacob Zanola, here with Evan Altman, here to talk to you about everything Cubs, specifically the opening weekend. Before we get started, Evan, how's it going?
Probably be a lot better if, we were recording this like 3 hours ago, or even an hour ago. But I guess I can't complain terribly. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, weather's getting warmer. I don't know about you in Indiana, but I know in Illinois we've definitely seen our fair share of storms over the last week, but it's warmer weather. The lack of snow I am okay with, and it means that baseball season is upon us, whether that be positive or negative.
Yeah. And I was just, I was out in Phoenix and it was hot, right? By the time I want to say it was like 94 it got up to the last day I was there. Maybe the first day was 84, but it felt way hotter. And then when I got home, it was like 40, and so, but it's been warm. It's really rainy and kind of crappy. So that sucks a little bit, but I'll be in Vegas for, a couple days. Although I'll be inside like the entire time. So I don't really care if it's hot out there or not. So we'll see, but it feels more like it should be baseball versus when the Cubs started the season, which feels like a fever dream at this point. And that was like super weird. So I'm very much looking forward, I guess, over anything, because they still got to go to Sacramento now. I hate that they started with 2 games that started at 5 a.m, and now they've had a bunch of games that started at like 9 o'clock at night or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's going to these super early, super late. It's hard for me to keep track of. So just want them back in Chicago so we can resume kind of a normal schedule.
Well, my sleep schedule is already bad enough as it is being a teenager, but you're in Indianapolis, so you're in Eastern time, if I'm correct, which means these games are even later for you. For me, they're starting at 9 o'clock. For you, that's 10. That means they don't get over until 1 a.m. at the earliest.
Yeah, I was in between that and then the NCAA games and like I said, then being, kind of having my schedule flipped from being in Phoenix anyway. Like I hate a 10 o'clock start, especially if they're like Thursday. Hey, you get out, you get a win, but like they looked so bad on Friday. And I'm like, I ended up turning it off and watching basketball because I was like, I can't watch this anymore. They're just going to go out here and get like 3 hits, sporadic and just kind of not do anything. Like, this is too much, man. I gotta go to bed or at least watch something that's going to maintain my interest, which they did not.
The basketball games haven't either. I mean,
No.
4 1 seeds in the Final Four. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So whether it's Cubs or basketball, I did the same thing. I switched over to a basketball game. Nope, 20-point deficit. Okay, I'm turning that off. There's no competitive sports to watch.
Although I will say I wanted that because my bracket that is leading our, unfortunately, fairly small Cubs Insider pool. I'm well out front on that one, and I was in the 99th percentile prior to Auburn winning. So I was just going to check in on that, see if I improved my lot any there, but we'll see what happens. But it is here's the thing. I don't begrudge any kids making their money, and I won't spend much time on this, I promise. I think this whole NIL thing, I think it's great for the players. I don't like it for the sport because we've effectively eliminated any chance of like the Cinderella mid-major story anymore. Mm-hmm. Because in the past, you'd have these teams where, a kid, whether it's, George Mason locally here, Butler, where my daughter's going to be going next year, they made back-to-back runs to the finals, which is insane. But you could do that because you could build a program. These guys would be in there for 2, 3, 4 years. They're not getting drafted away. They're staying in there. They understand the system. The coach can recruit to exactly what he wants, and they'll stick around. But anymore, if a dude comes out and he's at a smaller school and he has a great freshman or sophomore year, he's being poached and recruited away with NIL money to a bigger school. And we're seeing that all over the place, right? Or, I mean, hell, it could be some of these. I was watching the women's in the I can't remember the girl's name now, but she's with TCU, but she was great at Louisville. Went from Louisville to LSU, another power, and then is at TCU, another power. Right. And so it's like, and you see that with some of these dudes. Janai Broom from Auburn was, he started somewhere else. I forget where, but so it's either, you get a Duke who just brings in, and interestingly enough, Cooper Flagg, high school national championship, didn't lose a single game his senior year in high school, who just turned 18 because he reclassified. And he goes to Duke, and Kentucky has a lot of these one and done guys. It's just, it's the rich have gotten richer, more in more ways than one. Like, that's not just a proverb, but yeah, that part's frustrating, but not as frustrating as what the Cubs did today. So I'll bring that back around. That's what we call a segue in the business.
That's a good transition. That was one of, I posted on Twitter and said, of the many things that I said during that 8th inning collapse, that's a candidate for the Cubs loss of the year. And it's March 30th. We haven't even made it to April. And that, I think it's going to be hard to beat that as the worst loss of the year. And it's not even April 1st.
Yeah. I mean, when you give up a snowman in the bottom of the 8th, right? Like, they were cruising. They're up 6-2, and they gave up all 10 runs in the last 3 at-bats for the Diamondbacks, right? So the D-backs scored 10 runs from the 6th inning on. And, I mean, the Cubs had been in control of that, but to just go out there, and it was like, in our group text going back and forth, just, can they just not walk everybody? I mean, it was one of those where you could just see it, right? You could watch it happening. Josh Naylor walked 3 times. How does it happen? How do you walk a dude 3 times in a game?
His other at bat, he hit it over PCA's head.
Yeah. So it's just a complete, like, I don't even want to look at it, but it's like every time I looked up, like, oh, is this a replay? Because they just, like, every pitch, it was like the beginning of the Yankees Brewers game, which we'll talk about here in a little while. But it just felt like every pitch, it was either a ball resulting in a walk or it was getting tagged. It's not like the D-backs were out there just, little soft stuff. Like, they were launching balls all over the place. And that was just so flippin' frustrating to watch that and just be like, well, this one's over. So, yay.
You knew pretty quick. And again, I messaged in several group chats, and I'm like, I'm done with this team because it's 6-2. Kyle Tucker hits a 3-run home run to make it 6-2 after we were up 3-1. Okay. It's 3-2. Cool. We have a lead, whatever. Oh, hey, Kyle Tucker launches back-to-back days with a home run now. So him, Swanson, and Suzuki are three of our best hitters, all have home runs. Normally, that's a recipe for success. Matthew Boyd in his Cubs debut, 5 innings, no runs, walked 3, struck out 5. So the walks, a little bit of an issue, but he was able to escape the jams. Cool. If you were to tell me that Matthew Boyd went 5 shutty, and then Suzuki, Tucker, and Swanson all hit home runs, sweet, we won the game, won the series, we're going to Sacramento sitting pretty. No. And exactly like you said about the replays, I'm sitting there watching this game. My dad comes in and they're showing a replay of the Lourdes Gurriel home run. And he said, wait, they hit another? No, that's just a replay. But it wouldn't have been surprising. Like, his first thought was, oh, they hit another. That's just the least surprising thing of all time. The bullpen management was horrid by counsel. You just let Eli Morgan sit out there like a sitting duck. I mean, it's like that gift from The Simpsons. It's like, stop, he's already dead. I mean, they just, at some point, counsel just figured, who cares? And Morgan's given up home run after home run after home run. Who do we have after that? Okay, where's Julian Merriweather? No one knows. We don't know. Is he hurt? He was warming up the other day, they said, but we haven't heard him, and he was fantastic this spring, so it's odd we haven't seen him. Killer got lit up the other day. Eli Morgan was already in the game. Presley, nope. He threw like 40 pitches the other day. Hodge, he threw a lot too. It's game It's game 6 of the season, and we're already out of bullpen options. It just shows that's bad. That's really, really bad. And I don't care. I get the Diamondbacks are a good team. I already had a few people say, yeah, like, it's game 6. Calm down. The Diamondbacks are a good team. Okay, but we were up 6-2. Like, the Cubs are supposed to be a good team too. It's not like we're the White Sox blowing a 4-run lead. We're the Cubs, who are favored to win the division, have one of the highest revenues in baseball, not payrolls. Not even going to argue about that right now. But we're the Cubs. We should be up there with the Diamondbacks. Tom Ricketts uses the Diamondbacks as an example every 2 sentences. Hey, remember when they made the World Series in 2023 with Eli Pirro? We want to be like them. Well, if you want to be like them, then we better see some 8-run comebacks in the future.
Yeah, which isn't going to happen if you have Caleb Thielbar out here walking 3 of the 5 guys he faces, right? Like, he didn't give up a hit, but he walked 3. Nate Pearson gave up 3 hits, walked 2, and you've got Morgan who walked 1 and gave up 6 hits to get 2 outs. Like,
that's a reliever.
This is wild to me, right? That's the worst part. Like, Thielbar comes in, he gets a walk, he gets out of the inning in the 7th. He comes on for the 8th, walks the first 2 batters, which we know is going to be awful, right? Eli Morgan comes in, gets an out, cool, feeling good. But then it goes double, homer, single, double, intentional walk. Then there's a steal, then a single, right? And so it's just like, what are we going to do? And then another single, at which point, right, then he gets replaced, and Colin Ray immediately gives up a double. But, like, what is Eli Morgan doing out there after, how many is that? 1, 2, there's an intentional walk. So then, but 3, 4, 5, 6 straight batters got hits off of him. And these were not cheap, right? It's not as if it was like I get it if you're like, oh man, it's not, a broken bat bleeder here, and then an infield, like a swinging bunt or something like that. Like, no, he was just getting hammered. And it's like, Craig, buddy, what are you doing? So that part was awful to me.
Yeah, he was getting showed. I mean, there's no way around it. Like you said, this was not a, hey, bloop him to death. Like, we see the Brewers are great at it. Other than this last series, that was a joy to watch. The one positive I'm taking away from this whole weekend in baseball. Like, it just didn't matter what happened. They were going to absolutely crush it. Pearson, why did he go out for a second inning of work? I'm going to question that for a while. It's not like we have a shortage of bullpen people, although apparently we did. But it is too early in the season for these supposed injuries that we have, I guess. So apparently Julian Merriweather was unavailable for today's game. He's been up twice this series for 2 of the games, but he's not available. Okay, great. So now Julian Merriweather, who was supposed to be one of our best bullpen arms, he's hurt. That's not great. I did see a tweet from the Cubs skipper on Twitter. He said, there are 2 scenarios I could see for leaving Pearson in for a second inning. A, you're playing MLB The Show and you want the game to be over. Or B, it's mid-August and the bullpen is taxed. It's March 30th. We aren't even to April Fools yet, and this team's already a joke.
Yeah, that part, they walked 9 batters in the game and struck out 6. Like, I would rather see it. Like, it's not good that Morgan was out there to give up hits, but at least he's giving up hits. Like, I'll take that over. Now he did walk a guy in there, but I'll take that over 9 walks in a game, right? At least make them earn it. But at a certain point, man, like, what are we doing? It's a 6-2 lead, not 16-2. You can't just sit out there and let these guys wear it over and over again. And Pearson has had all kinds of trouble finding the zone in general. Like, I don't like watching him pitch because it just, and JD was talking about on the broadcast, there's some mechanical things. Seems like he's maybe flying open. Like, the fastball's great if he's locating it well. I mean, he can touch triple digits. That's awesome. The Cubs need a guy like that. But as we see so flipping often, those guys also can't find the zone. Like, 100 miles an hour doesn't do any good if you're missing by a foot half the time, right? Like, the guys are just going to spit on it. And so I maybe this is my foolishness. I really had felt like the way things were constructed, that Counsell would come into this season with a much better idea of who fit where in the bullpen mix. But based on what we've seen, not just Sunday, but kind of so far, it feels as if he's still sort of playing mix and match. And again, it's Merriweather's got to be dealing with something. Yeah. But if that's the case, then put him on the IL and bring up somebody who can pitch, because it does you no good to play shorthanded, especially in a situation like this where the bullpen had to come in and they just end up imploding. And it's not been, I mean, Ryan Stressley, that's tough to watch too. Like, that so far, Porter Hodges looked great. Now he got into a little bit of trouble the other day and then got out of it. Like, but that's a dude who's not afraid to challenge. I see a lot of these guys. It just feels like all of them are trying to nibble. They're just trying not to get hit. And it's like, when you do that, you end up doing one of 2 things, or both. Is that you end up walking guys, which they've done, or you end up going or you get deep in these counts and then you're forced to come back with a fastball or something in the zone. And what did we see today? We saw both of those things. And that you cannot have guys at the major league level. This isn't junior high. This isn't high school ball where you can kind of be afraid to get tagged. Like, you have to be able to have the confidence to attack hitters early in the zone with your stuff, because falling behind against a team that is dangerous, this is not a bad team in Arizona. You cannot continue to give them time after time after time to make good. And that's what happened. And that is frustrating. It's something that needs to be addressed, but we'll see. Maybe it helps that they get to go to Sacramento and play in a minor league ballpark. And, who knows, against a team that's not spending any money, or I guess they are spending a little bit more, but still they're embarrassingly bad from a payroll perspective. So Cubs got to get back to 500, in my opinion, before they get back home. And they need to just figure out a way to string a few wins together here.
They have to. We walked through, if my calculations are correct, which I just did this in my head, 6 games in, we've already walked 30 batters, which that's not ideal. That's not ideal at all. Again, that's MLB The Show level. Like, that is me on MLB The Show late at night, I'm too tired and I'm not able to control my PCI. There is no control in this bullpen. Like you said with Merriweather, why is he not on the IL if he's hurt? We've seen this team and this, whether it's the training staff, whether it's the athletic trainers, whether it's the management, whether it's the front office, they don't know how to manage injuries. We always are finding out, especially later in the season, about stories of, yeah, that guy was hurt for about a week, but we kept him on the bench just in case he was healthy. No, send him down, get him out. There has to be some sense of urgency, because it infuriates me when people say the games in March don't matter as much as the games in September, or it's okay, just wait until the pennant race. No, if the Cubs lose 10 straight here and then end up missing the playoffs by 10 straight, hey, that happened in March and April. Those games matter. These games matter. Every bullpen lead that we lose, every game that we blow, we will then look back on. And when we miss the playoffs by 2 to 3 games, hey, imagine if Merriweather wasn't a sitting duck, like a lame arm in the bullpen. Imagine if we called up someone like Riley Martin. Imagine if we called up a Cade Horton. Now, if he's fully healthy, I don't know. I think he is. But we have enough arms that's what we prided ourselves on this offseason. We prided ourselves on the depth of pitching. Keegan Thompson's, he's sitting in AAA. I know he wasn't great during spring. Going to be better than the dudes that we're putting out there that are throwing it right down the middle. We lost by 4 runs, I think it was 10-6, I believe. Mm-hmm. We lost by that, and Suarez didn't even have a home run. The one game of the series, he doesn't have a home run. We lose by 4.
Yeah, it's just what was supposed to have been a strength so far is most definitely not. And that's the part, right? The offense, the one, because I would even argue like scoring 4 runs is generally not enough, but they did enough to barely get by on Saturday. They scored 10 in the opener of the series. Then they only had the 1, but scoring 6 runs is enough to win, right? Being up 6-2 heading into the 8th inning should be enough to win, but it clearly was not. And I think that's again, because you're kind of going with the low leverage guys, right? Like Eli Morgan and Nate Pearson are not, I mean, those are, but again, they should be able to not give up more than 4 runs.
They should be the guys that we acquired Eli Morgan for a top 30 prospect into the organization. I understand he's not going to be Mariano Rivera or prime Craig Kimbrell coming out of the bullpen, but from what we saw in Japan, from what we saw in his first appearance, I want to say it went well. Either way, this dude should be a high leverage. I'm not saying bases loaded, nobody out. We need somebody to get him out of the jam. No, then you bring in Porter Hodge. But he should be someone that it doesn't matter what reliever. If you were employed on a major league roster, you should not be giving up 6 hits in a row.
Right. You shouldn't be giving up 6 hits, period, in a short outing like that, right?
I don't care what leverage you are. You should not be giving up 6 hits.
Yeah.
And if you give up 3 or 4, okay, it's not your day. I'm going to have a talk with you, but also get him out of the game. Why are we letting him get just assaulted out there and nobody's just putting him on full display?
Well, and that also goes back to, you look at, and not that either of these two were actually pitching well in the spring, but Tyson Miller and Ryan Brazier, both suffering injuries that put them on the IL, which I think for one of them, effectively, all it really did was prolong the time before he gets DFA'd in Tyson Miller.
Yeah.
kind of surprised that he's actually still on the roster, but save that for another time. Brazier hasn't looked very good since they picked him up from the Dodgers. Again, also on the IL. And so, Morgan had been optioned. So like they already were looking at it saying, hey, you know what? We're not quite ready for this guy to be up, which again speaks to like, wait, you traded for this dude and then and I get it, but this is where, so a lot of people want to justify it, like, oh, he still had options left. Okay, cool. But if your roster construction, and this is something that Jed loves to do, if your roster construction is such that you basically acquired the guy because he has options, largely because like none of the other relievers that you have options, I just, that roster construction bothers me so much, because we can look at it like, a lot of people like, why'd they have to get rid of Vasquez? Why'd they, well, he didn't have, well, neither does Brujan, doesn't have options, right? Vidal, when they got him, well, it's between, and then Workman with a Rule 5, he can't just be optioned. You have a team full of people that there's no flexibility to it. So it's either you roster the guy or you cut him. And then again, with Morgan, he got option. Now he's back because they had an IL spot, but it's just, now you're just playing musical chairs. And it is like, are there not, with all the development that they have supposedly done, with all the better drafting and everything else, what are we looking at in this bullpen? We're looking at largely dudes that they've acquired, in DFA trades, in standard trades, in pickups, like Ryan Presley. But how many guys, like I'm just off the top of my head, right? I mean, Brazier was DFA'd, Miller was DFA'd. I think Pearson was DFA'd, was he not?
Yes,
or maybe non-tendered. So. Julian Merriweather, I think, was non-tendered, and that's how they ended up getting him. Like, it's all cast-offs, and that's not to say that they can't be good individually, but when that's your whole bullpen, not only does that mean that you got them on the cheap for the most part, but it also means there's nowhere to go with them. If they don't perform, they're gone. But clearly, you didn't have anybody in the minors who was better than that. Because if you did, then that would be an even cheaper way to build the bullpen. But they haven't been able to do that yet. I don't like where we are. Maybe they turn it around, right? Maybe these guys are all lights out for the next 6 months, and I'll look like an idiot for this. But I do not like how this is all. And again, they weren't lights out in the spring. Like, I watched Ryan Brazier in that last game that I was at. It was Monday against the Braves, and that dude got lit up. I'm just like, maybe he's working on something, right? Maybe the fastball was feeling off. He's like, I'm just going to throw this till it feels good. And it felt really good to the Braves hitters. So outside of that, I'm just frustrated by what was supposed to have been a strength of this team versus last year's team. And already we're sitting here looking at it going, here we go again, because it's not a strength.
Right. And you mentioned it's scrap heaps. It's, again, not that they can't be good, but these are guys that came in with low expectations because they're all minimum salary guys, or a lot of them are. So on one hand, I'm like, should we be surprised? No. But also, we were told, hey, these guys are going to be good. The problem last year was the bullpen. Okay, cool. So you guys updated the bullpen, right? Yeah, we got some new guys, so it's going to work out, right? No, it already looks like a disaster. And it's not just Cubs fans, guys that I'm talking to around the game, whether it's scouts or just friends that are fans of other teams. The amount of texts that I got that just said, weren't the Cubs just winning by 4 and now they're losing by 3? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, Cubs fans are getting just ridiculed out here, and we kind of deserve it. You look at the bullpen, Dodgers estimated in the ballpark of about $50 million spent on the bullpen. I know it's hard to compare Cubs Dodgers because the payrolls are so different, but I'm going to bear with me for a second. Dodgers $50 million, Cubs have spent around $13 million on the bullpen. Again, Dodgers payroll is like $85 billion. So on one hand, it's hard to compare, but their team is focusing on the bullpen. And even when they have one guy that has a down game, Tanner Scott, he blew a save. He has 2 straight appearances. They were out. They were playing the Tigers in LA this weekend. Back-to-back appearances. One of them, he just gave up a run, but they still had the lead. The other one, he blew a save. Okay, cool. So your best closer, your best reliever is not doing well. That's okay. They got the next guy in, and they won the game. They got the next, like, it doesn't matter. And Dodgers, juggernaut, cool. But they have correctly allocated those resources. Then you look at teams that aren't even paying that much. The Guardians Their bullpen is full of demons year in and year out, and their payroll's low. And the Cubs have mentioned them. Tom Ricketts has mentioned them. We brought over Carter Hawkins, who, don't get me started on what he's doing. I don't know. But whatever he's doing, he's not doing it right. So you have Carter Hawkins that's over here. And, hey, we want to implement this. We brought him over, I would assume, for the pitching development that the Guardians were so good at. And ever since he's been here, I don't remember what year he got here, but at least the last 2 years, the bullpen has been hideous. It's been the laughingstock of baseball, and everyone knows, looking at this roster, offense? Yeah, the offense is good. Spring training, we struggled near the end and in LA, but you can see, and I think we would all admit, this offense has some real talent. Kyle Tucker's getting heated up. He's a superstar. Cool. Starting pitching, we have some arms. Yeah, like that could be a sneaky good rotation. And then you look at the bullpen and you just gag and you just get a bucket, you're throwing up. It's awful.
Yeah, and you know who could have been in the bullpen? Cody Poteet. But no, he got DFA'd, and so now, and again, I don't think anybody really expected him to do much, but what a joke, right? That they traded Cody Bellinger. Not that they traded him away. I understood them trading him away. I really thought that he was going to end up opting out in the first place, and then as soon as he opted back in, it was a foregone conclusion he was going to get traded, right? Especially with Tucker. So I get that on the surface. But the point was to reallocate that money. And there's at least one person out there. There are some apologists out there. I had somebody in my mentions telling me I sounded like a little kid who didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, okay, buddy, like I'm old enough to remember when the Tribune Company. I was like, okay.
And
yeah,
okay.
So am I. I'm 46 years old. I've been around for a little bit, but that trade was clearly a salary dump when the only return player-wise was Cody Poteet, right? So you're getting the Yankees to eat $5 million. Woo! Right? So whatever. I mean, the Cubs are eating $5, so you got the Yankees to eat all but $5 million. So, you know, you're saving quite a bit, ostensibly. But no, they didn't reallocate that to anybody of significance anyway, right? Maybe they spread, we could argue that they spread that around. However, the guys they signed after the Bellinger deal were guys they would have had to have signed anyway, just to fill out the roster, right? So it's not like we'd sit there and say like, oh, well, they spent some of it on Justin Turner. And they were going to, Turner was on the radar for a long time anyway. But then they went ahead and then Poteet doesn't make the roster. They DFA him and then trade him to the Orioles for cash consideration. So in the end, all they are left with from the Bellinger deal is the money that they saved.
And the memories.
Yes, well, those two, of course, the friends we made along the way. But, you know, kind of as you alluded to earlier, a lot of people sitting there like, oh, well, that's money they have saved for mid-season trades. Okay. Like, this mentality bothers me. Yes, I understand they save money back for that in most situations. However, you guys got to understand that money left over, like players, when they are traded for in a deal like that, you're only paying their prorated salary.
Right.
Nobody they're going to trade for is making $50 million. Therefore, the buffer is not going to that deal. And the other thing is, you've got to be in a position to make an aggressive big move buy trade. You can only do that if you've got a good enough roster to get you there. So right. I don't like this whole, like, we're just looking forward to the trade deadline. Like, you can't do that. And that's where I think Hoyer has made his mistake to whatever extent. And I understand his hands were tied somewhat financially, because this is the other thing. And people who are defending the Ricketts and the payroll are just, it's wild to me, because like they're taking these leaps of logic and not paying attention to any context. No one is saying the Cubs should have the same payroll as the Dodgers or the Mets, right? Necessarily, like right now. I'm fine with him not spending $760 million on one player. But when you are the fourth most valuable franchise, that's the other thing. Well, franchise values don't mean, yes, I understand how money works, right? But they're among the top 3 to 4 teams in baseball in terms of revenue. And based on their revenues last year of $500+ million, and Brooksgate has you can go out there on Twitter and find it. the Cubs are spending like 36% of last year's revenue on this year's payroll, which puts them 26th in Major League Baseball. The teams in that realm are like the Marlins, the Pirates, the Guardians, the White Sox. Those are the only teams below the Cubs in terms of the percentage of revenue being spent on their payroll. That is embarrassing, right? You could say all you want that, well, they're still spending $200+ million. Okay. But when that's less than 40% of what they brought in, and they're, 26 in baseball, they're 13th or 14th, depending on who you look at with the estimates in total payroll, which again is embarrassing for the Chicago by God Cubs. And then to be 26 in the percentage is even worse. So do not tell me that this team, again, I don't need them to be top 2 or 3. They should darn well never be in a double-digit ranking in that regard. They shouldn't be outside of the top 5, right? It's just the business operations side, to me, I believe has bungled this very badly for the last 10 years, to say nothing of the last 5, with Marquis' launch and the way that's all gone, and how poorly that has done in terms of generating better than the deals they had, far worse than where they probably should be, even in light of the regional sports network kind of industry as a whole and how bad that's crumbled. But again, they saw that coming, they knew it was coming, and they still couldn't figure out a way to avoid it. So that part to me is really, really frustrating beyond it, because we could talk about Jed. We could talk, it's a failure to me. I keep saying to me, it's a failure organizationally on multiple fronts in baseball operations and business operations. And it's frankly embarrassing to sit there and watch all these guys who they wanted to sign go elsewhere because they were not willing or able to pony up a few million extra bucks to match or come close to what the other offers were. And so, as you said, now it's scraps, and then we see the results of that.
Right. 2 things on that, and then I want to get into the next topic about that Yankees-Brewers game. A, you mentioned but we can trade for him at the deadline. Like you said, why would we trade for a Sandy Alcantara, a Framber Valdez, if we're 5 games under 500, if we're 3rd in the division? What's the point? I saw somebody say, I don't want to trade for Sandy Alcantara now. I want to wait until the deadline. Okay, but he could help you get 7-8 more wins before the deadline. Why don't you want the best roster now? That was ridiculous in itself. But yet you look at all these options that we could have had. Tanner Scott, I know he blew a saber too. Don't care. He's still one of the best relievers in the league. I've been asking for him for 2 years. I was like, hey, trade for him for the Marlins. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, hey, maybe they should listen to me more. But Tanner Scott, one of the best relievers in baseball, the Cubs only missed out on him because they were not willing to offer a 4th year early enough. And it was kind of just well known now as they paid us $5 million more than us, which $5 million, who's getting owed $5 million on this team? Colin Ray. Colin Ray's getting $5 million. Whoa. Okay, cool. So you don't sign Colin Ray, who's literally just going to be an innings eater on this team. I get it. Inning eaters are useful, but we could have had Tanner Scott, and then we wouldn't have to eat as many innings. That could be fun. And why are you waiting until the Dodgers deal is supposedly already agreed on? And then you're like, fine, we'll give you a 4th year. Dude, we've given you this opportunity for 3 weeks and you've waited. Yeah, but here, Jed, fine, here you go, Tanner. I'll give you your 4th year. Jed, we've given you that chance for the last 2 weeks. And you're finally saying that when you already hear, hey, we gave up. We gave you guys your chance. He wanted to be in Chicago, but if the Dodgers gave him that 4th year, I don't blame him. The fact that he was even considering Chicago over LA in the first place bewilders me. But we had the chance. We fumbled that. David Robertson, I have to think he's retiring at this rate. Like, I don't know for sure. I have not heard anything on that front. But the fact that, again, it's March 30th and he hasn't even signed and he would need to ramp up whatever, he's good enough. I'm guessing he's probably going to retire. Kirby Yates, cool. We could have paid him. You could have traded for somebody. Griffin Jacks would have loved to trade for him. Emmanuel Clase probably wasn't on the block, but I can dream. Either way, there were so many different options, but instead we signed Colin Ray. Instead of reallocating the money, we went and we spent it on Gallagher Way. We spent it on breaking even. Honestly, I don't care as long as we're breaking even. That's what the fans are told. The fans are told it doesn't matter what the results are as long as we're breaking even and Tom Ricketts can sleep well every night. That's all that should matter, according to the team.
Yeah, and I mean, but you hit it on that with, I think, and I don't know if this is, I think Hoyer, for as many times as he's hit on a couple of these, right? He kind of got lucky, very much got lucky with Shota Imanaga, that it's like apparently nobody else wanted to get this guy because they got him for about half of what they expected. That it's kind of like that with Bellinger, where they sort of were in a stare down, and then he ended up coming back on that deal after they got him the first time around. And so there's been a couple of these where it's like Hoyer's, and I've said this too many times, but you think about he's the person who's shopping with all the coupons. He's not going to buy the item at full price unless it's on sale and he's got a coupon for it, or he's the home buyer who's waiting out the market, where somebody else is coming in like, yep, hey, we'll give you a couple thousand above asking price, boom, sold. And then he's like, wait a minute, but I thought, like, you can't just sit back. Like, at a certain point, you've got to go out and get your, and also the same person who told me that I don't know what I'm talking about, who told me that the Cubs are in a perfect spot with what they're spending, also said that the Cubs are going to give Kyle Tucker $500 million and get that extension done. And that's a done deal. And I'm like, hey, I would love to be wrong on that, but if they were going to give him $500 million, that would have been done already.
There's no urgency. There is no urgency whether you look at it, the whole organization. You could say there's no urgency with the Craig Counsell not pulling Eli Morgan. Again, beating a dead horse. It was just, hey, let's just leave him out there. Let's let him suffer, be the mockery of the game. Okay, no urgency there. Hey, we could have offered Tanner Scott a fourth year. I don't care if he's not good that last year. First 3 years, yeah, he's worth it. That's okay. Sometimes you have to overpay for players. That's okay. Like, that's what I don't understand, is there's no urgency among the whole offseason and even in season.
Yeah, that is the part. And again, I mean, I understand. I don't like it. I understand where it comes from in certain parts, because there's only so much that you can really do, right, at a certain point. But it's that desire to, I said coupons, but I also look at it. It's like if you ever shop at Kohl's, like my daughter works at Kohl's, and like everything's always on sale, right? It's like, oh, save this much, it's like they drive, and your receipt shows, and they circle it and show you how much you saved, right? And so it's more, they don't even care about how much you spent, because I'm already like, you didn't save anything, because that never was actually at that price. But I feel like Jed Hoyer has to shop at Kohl's, because it feels like all of his deals, like he's more intent on getting the savings. He's more intent on how are the prospect rankings, not how are we actually developing these players. Because outside of Cade Horton, also, none of those guys are pitchers, right? All their top guys are hitters, who you don't have room for any of them. First of all, they have not done a good job of developing pitchers, as you noted. Hopefully Tyler Zombro helps out with that. But the whole point of Carter Hawkins coming over was that, man, the Guardians are doing this on the shoestring budget. And boy, they keep turning out, as you said, demons in the bullpen. They keep running out great pitchers, but Cubs can't do it. So it's, right. And they've been talking about that for years. They knew they were screwing it up. They supposedly changed their philosophy, and that's resulted in a whole lot more of the same, right? I mean, Justin Steele is a really good example of some good work they've done. But then, you talked about Keegan Thompson. That didn't work out. The Adbert Alzolay thing never quite worked out. Part of that was injury, but they still couldn't quite get it right. I feel like a lot of this comes down to luck. And it's just some of these dudes kind of persevering on their own, figuring out their own success, their own path to success. And the team just kind of is in this, we're going to throw it all up against the wall and see what sticks. And they're fine from a bat perspective so far. And prospects are only as good as what they do when they come up. And, Matt Shaw's doing okay. But man, it's frustrating to me to watch this team be completely unable to turn out decent pitchers at a good clip. But again, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Cade Horton will help, but that's not much.
Yeah. And I mean, to summarize the rest of the series, we didn't look bad the rest of the series. Opening night or domestic opening night, we looked good. Hap looked fantastic. Everybody but Swanson had a hit that night. Cubs won 10-6. Game 2, we lost 8-1. That one was pretty ugly, but PCA, with an RBI double, so he looked good. And then game 3, we won 4-3. Another really close game because of the bullpen and Eugenio Suarez. But going on to, speaking of home runs and Eugenio Suarez, lots of home runs were hit yesterday. Nestor Cortez, first 3 pitches of the game, gave up 3 solo home runs. So at that point, because he had given up the walk-off grand slam to Freddie Freeman in the World Series, his last 4 pitches were home runs. Not great. Yankees end up winning 20-6. I believe they hit 9 home runs, which is in that game, which is 1 away from the major league record. Judge hit 3. He hit another today. He's pretty good. But there's something interesting about the equipment. That is it right? Is it wrong? Is it just the Yankees? No, it turns out other people are using it. Anyways, Evan, I know you've done a lot of research on the Torpedo bats, so I'll let you explain that to the viewers and to me because I'm curious to learn about it.
Yeah, so got a piece up there today because as I was watching, and I was kind of like, I was in the interest of full transparency, like I was dealing with so my son is a pitcher. I mean, he plays at field too, but pitcher. Have this driveline pulse thing that like kind of measures your workload, and it app and firmware updated, and so this thing was going completely haywire and like trying to sync. Like I think I let it run till it was at 2,300 throws that it was tracking for today, which I'm pretty sure he didn't throw 2,300 pitches today. As I was monkeying with that, like stuff was going on. I was kind of like watching the game in the background. And it was only like I looked up and noticed, I was like, wait a minute, I think Nico Horner's swinging one of those Torpedo bats, and a bunch of people confirmed it, and I looked it up and saw this. So it's really weird. It looks kind of like a bowling pin, to where it's fatter. Like we're used to bats, being skinny in the handle, and then they get larger, and they're at their largest circumference generally at the end, right? It kind of tapers from there. But what these have done, and this is this guy named, and I don't know if it's Leonard or Leanhart, Aaron, Leanhardt. So it's probably like Leanhart, or it's probably Leonard is what he goes with. Anyway, this guy has a PhD in physics from MIT. He was a physics professor at Michigan, but he was also a coach along the way, I think high school and college. And so the Yankees hired him. He was in their front office. He was on their coaching staff. Now he's with the Marlins. But this guy designed these bats. And so they look, when you look at them, it looks illegal because it seems like it's larger in the barrel than what it should be normally. But in fact, all they've done is shift weight away from the end. So the end of the bat is a little skinnier, right? And you can, if you go to Cubs Insider, you can see it. I got some pictures in there. Jazz Chisholm, there's a great picture of him kind of throwing the bat after a home run. And basically what they do, and I didn't realize this at first, but they do this based on each player. So like they will distribute the weight to the part of the bat where that specific player most frequently hits it. So I think, for instance, one of the guys who was swinging him, Anthony Volpe, so he hit it like right on the label of the bat where that's printed. So his is fattest at that label. And so the idea, right, normally if you think about it, the actual sweet spot of the bat is not the biggest, the largest circumference, right? So normally, again, we can see that in the maximum is 2.61 inches, not circumference, but diameter or whatever. And so his is largest down there. So it looks very odd. But the point is, if that's where I'm normally going to hit it, wouldn't I want the most density and the most mass at that part of the bat? And so effectively, that's what this thing has been done. And because you can't just, right, this is a deal where, so a lot of people are like, why is it just the Yankees? Well, it's not. And clearly you'd think some of the Marlins, but nobody gives a crap about the Marlins. Nobody's paying attention to them. But this guy got these things designed. Bat manufacturers, anytime there's a change like that. So we've seen the hockey puck knob. We've seen the axe handle knob. Chisholm, I think, also has, I can't tell this for sure, but I'm like, my son swings a war stick bone saber, which has what they call a pommel grip. So there's no actual like ridged knob that you would normally see. He's also swung axe bats. But when you look at it, it looks a little funky, but the general principle is all the same. But it's still one of those things where I think, I would think that part of it is, it may just be a function of circumstance, right? It might just be coincidence here. It might be a matter of the placebo effect. Because like Aaron Judge, as you mentioned, he's still swinging the same bat, right? So he's hit a ton of tanks already and has in the
Is he
past.
swing? He's not using the torpedo bat.
No.
I've watched the videos, but I haven't focused. Okay,
He's not. So, and he said that, I think his quote, and I have this in here. He said, "What I did the past couple seasons speaks for itself. Why try to change something if you have something that's working?" And that makes sense. Although I would also say that if something is working, but you can make it better, why not try it? And I mean, to be fair, and I think like Cody Bellinger, I don't know if he's swinging one now. I know he's swinging one some in the spring. But Nico Horner's swinging one. Dansby Swanson is swinging one. He hit a bomb in the game, the deepest part of the park he left. But I do think, right, everybody, like baseball more so, baseball and golf are probably the two where the equipment that those individuals use, the way in golf, it'd be the stiffness of the shaft that they use. It's the different club heads and the weights on their driver, things like that. Like these people are masters of their craft. And so whether it's the glove or the bat or whatever, the way that feels to them has to be right. And so I don't think it's for everyone, just like a puck knob's not right for everyone. But it's super interesting to me that this is an area, and the puck knob is a little bit like that because it did kind of, it changes the balance of the weight and, again, makes it much more handle loaded. So some people are going to like that better. This is going to make the bat a little bit more barrel or end loaded, right? So maybe they get a little whippier. The kind of the inventor, if you will, he doesn't seem to think it'll impact bat speed, or that it does impact bat speed. I don't know that for sure, but it's a very interesting thing to me to take physics, not just like, because I think, baseball has been, for the most part, like I've talked about some of those changes to bats, but the actual design hasn't really changed all that much, incrementally over time. But this is something that is actually saying, hey, we're going to change this based on your exact swing profile, where you make contact with this, and then try to customize this specific bat for you, versus kind of, for the most part, like anybody could go out and it's like, oh, I like the turn model that Ronald Acuna Jr. uses, and so I'll just swing his bat. We hear dudes all the time like, oh, I was in a funk, and so I just swung somebody else's bat, and then I kind of got going with that, right? So super, super interesting to me, and I want to see how this continues to play out over the course of the season, right? Tyler McGill or Trevor McGill, whichever, I think it's Trevor, right? Who's he's with the Brewers or whatever. We're like kind of salty about it. It's like, I don't know, dude, make better pitches. Like the thing is, the bat is only as good as who's swinging it anyway. So it's not like we're talking about a bunch of scrubs, right? Like the Yankees got some pretty good players. Horner and Swanson, pretty good. These guys have hit before. But the last note I'll make on it, and I saw this from somebody else's, is that, Horner is an elite bat to ball type of guy. And so we've seen him kind of chase slug a little bit before with kind of ill effects a couple years ago in particular. But if he's able to maybe get a little bit more, well, we saw with PCA, like he's improved his bat speed from last year to this year. Didn't really help much today, but if you can find that advantage, the difference is, are you costing yourself somewhere else? And that's what I wonder, is that on the perfect, I think this is better. But if you're redistributing weight and taking it away, then what happens when you do miss and you're hitting off the end there, especially with it being a little bit more sloped in a different direction? Does that make it worse? Or are we going to see more broken bats? We've heard about these because of the good they supposedly did for the Yankees. Is there a downstream effect where there are some negative implications from these bats that will come out eventually? And so that, I think, we won't know until the sample size gets larger, which I mean, hey, everybody's a copycat, right? Everybody wants to copy success. And if the Yankees continue to do well with it, we're going to see these more and more.
Well, yeah. And then you wonder, I mean, obviously McGill and a bunch of people are like, well, the bats aren't really legal. I mean, yeah, they are. But is it something where baseball does say, hey, this is getting out of hand? And also, I'll ask, it does seem, based on what you said, that this is more of a just nobody had discovered it. But how did it take this long for somebody to be like, hey, biggest bat, like, hit it on the biggest part of the bat and make that more in the middle where everyone's hitting it? It just seems like with all the science and the R&D and the data that they're putting into baseball, it's kind of odd that it took so long for somebody to, and not that I've ever thought of this, but all the people that are so much smarter than me, how did they not come up with this until now?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. It's kind of one of these, and this guy's been, again, as I mentioned, I mean, he's been with the Yankees for a few years, but I think this was something he said was kind of the genesis of it came, I think, back in 22, so a few years ago, but you kind of wonder how much of it, like for one, I mean, how many innovations are out there that just never saw the light of day because that person didn't get it to the right other people, right? They didn't find the investor. They didn't get things tested and put through the right trials. So I think that's one of those things, like all this stuff's got to be approved by Major League Baseball. It's got to go through all this process. And I just wonder if somebody else just never got it that far. Or, I mean, how many times, like, you would think that would make sense. And it's once you hear it, then it's like, okay, I get that. But then how many people just took for granted, like, well, you can't make a baseball bat like that. Like, that's not legal. So I'm not even going to pursue it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And if it was just if a player had just shaved down the end of his bat, like that won't really do it, because then it's still too skinny in the middle. You have to know how to redistribute it. So you got to have somebody who's willing to be able to make it and test it and see. And like I said too, right? Baseball players are really, really finicky about their equipment. Like the puck knob thing never really took off very much. There were a few people. I know Patrick Wisdom swung one for a while. Paul Goldschmidt kind of famously did it. Although, again, same deal with those. They got really, really hot. Like we saw, there's a big deal made out of it. But then it turns out that puts a lot more stress with that weight, being below your hand, puts a lot more stress on your hamate bone, which is kind of a common break for baseball players anyway. And so it might work for a few people, but I think that's the other thing too, is there's got to be enough momentum for it. There's got to be enough players. If it's one dude who swings it, Dustin Pedroia is the first person I knew of swinging an axe bat because he broke his hamate bone, and those are much less stressful on that because of the kind of the slimness, if you will, of that knob down there and the way it's positioned in the hand. So I don't know. This is really the first, or this actually what it reminds me of is maple bats. When maple bats first became the rage, that's what Barry Bonds was swinging, because they're harder, they're denser, but they're also much more brittle. So they were breaking so much. I mean, there was a period there where like bats were exploding all over the place. I don't know if it was a maple bat that broke and stabbed Tyler Colvin in the chest. I think that was in a game in Miami, as I recall. But that was a big thing. Right. And we saw this and there was talk at the time, like, oh, they might have to ban maple bats, right? Because they're more brittle and they're breaking more often. And because the guys who were swinging them were generally getting better performance. So that's what that reminds me of. And then you kind of get that period. Then, birch comes in, because some ash is like the big one. And then birch kind of is in play. So there's all these different materials. So everybody's always looking for this next big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just, but what sticks? But by and large, axe handles aren't commonplace. Puck knobs aren't commonplace. They never really took off. The maple bats, yes, maple is definitely, that has come around, but it didn't change the bat design. So again, I'll be very interested to see how this continues. Is it something where it's a flash in the pan, it's crazy, and we'll see a few guys stick with that because they like the way it feels, and then we'll see a bunch more. Because again, my suspicion, if these were truly the greatest thing ever, like everybody would be swinging them. Yes. Right? Like you'd see more of it, because guys were swinging them in spring training. We just didn't really know about it. Nobody talked about it much. If they thought that these things were really better, because here's the deal, nobody's just pulling that bat out of the rack and going in there and taking their hacks in a major league game live for the first time. Like they've used these things in BP, they've swung them a ton, they know how they feel. So again, that my suspicion is that despite what seems like a really cool deal, that a lot of guys just don't like swinging them, or are saying, hey, you know what, like Aaron Judge, like I've done pretty well with my old bat, like I'm good, I don't want to change things up for fear of kind of screwing with what works.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned Patrick Wisdom. He's hitting some home runs in the KBO league, I believe it is. Seems like every day he's launching them at different exit velocities, and they're just absolute lasers. Former Cub legend. But yeah, I think that's all we really have today. Interesting stuff on the torpedo bats, because like I said, I keep seeing them, and that's kind of all that everyone online is arguing about, but I hadn't done the actual research. So I implore you, go check out on CubsInsider.com. Evan does great work as always, but that torpedo bat article was a great one. So if you're curious as well and didn't learn enough from this episode, go check that out. Make sure to follow us on all the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We got it all. And I think that's it that we have for today.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay. We'll see everybody on the flip side.
Awesome. See you guys.